All right, what up, Conrads? Welcome to New Jersey HorrorCon Q&A stage. We have an amazing panel for you guys today. We have some wonderful horror artists. Let's welcome up Chris Waters, Neil Cohen, Alton Simpson, and Joel Robinson.
Hi out there.
Hi.
Hello. Working the mic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us, guys. We're really honored to have you. We have one empty chair. Mr. Chris Ramo couldn't be with us today, so he'll have to be with us here in spirit. I'm going to ask a couple questions, get things warmed up, but as soon as I see hands going up out there, I'll start calling them out to the crowd. So just directed at everybody, guys. What kind of horror artists and filmmakers were you all into as kids growing up?
Let's see. I tell you, what terrified me the most was zombies. And that's why I embrace the genre, because, you know, you embrace what you fear.
Absolutely.
I remember as a kid, two things actually terrified me, because they both came out around the same time. The original Night of the Living Dead, or I'm sorry, Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead was a little work before me, but Dawn of the Dead, where they were in the mall, and then Carrie.
Oh man, it terrified me.
Yep.
Still kind of freaks me out a little bit, to tell you the truth. You guys?
Stephen King.
Love Stephen
Very
King.
inspirational.
Yeah.
I was going to say Carrie, the Barry for a little bit. Settings Lot, all that stuff, which I know they're going to try remaking now.
Of course, yeah. Everything Stephen King's done will probably be remade, you know, three more times.
Even when you look at the old stuff, it still gives you chills when you watch it. Because I remember Salem's Lot was a TV movie.
Holy cow,
And
yeah.
it was a two-part TV movie. And a lot of the 70s TV back then, they you know, we didn't have cable, but they would stretch it and make it a little edgy.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, that type of stuff.
Oh yeah. Stephen King definitely brought a level of class to like TV movies that I don't think anyone's even come near.
Yeah.
You know, incredible stuff. But Joel, Chris, you guys.
Cool. I was basically, I think, traumatized by the Night Gallery, Rod Serling shows. I used to stay up late when my parents didn't know I'd turn the TV on and watch it, and then the next morning that whole night I'd regret that I watched it.
Oh yeah, totally.
And,
it's the same thing for me. Twilight Zone VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Terrified me.
I would say Creature double feature, always. Then I would sneak into my older brother's room and find, like, he had comics, the old creepy comics, and I'd have to, you know, look through those, and it would scare the hell out of me, but for some reason I just kept needing to do it, you know.
I would say probably for me, I used to stay up late. My dad worked third shift, and my mom loved horror movies but hated to watch them alone. So that was in a time where there was horror hosts and they would show things. So, you know, and then she also introduced me to, you know, Frankenstein, Dracula, and all the Universal stuff, and also some of the Hammer stuff as well. So that had, you know, an effect on me. But yeah, and then later on, you know, as you got older, I watched Jason and stuff like that, but I was more into that, you know, and it didn't scare me. I was kind of rude.
You know, we were talking about remakes. I just read that they're going to remake Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
I'm talking, that is, you know, one of the few times I remember me and my father having something in common.
Right.
Saturday night, staying up late, watching The Night Stalker.
I was just thinking.
Yeah, with Darren McGavin.
Oh, awesome. Super cool. Well, speaking of that, touch riffing on that, you know, what do you guys think that is about the horror community that kind of unites people from all walks of life? Because it's really a very mixed, you know, bag that we get here. People just from everywhere. I was wondering what, you know, kind of if you guys want to touch on like what the horror community means to you personally, and you know what you like about doing conventions and stuff like that.
I'll start. I was, like I was saying, I was a fan of the genre, and I wanted to be in the genre. And I said, how can I get in there? And I tried. I always say I'm a triple threat, that I failed as an actor, that I failed as a stand-up comic, and now I'm failing as an author. But I just wanted to be part of it. And I wrote my actual first book, self-published it, just to be part of the zombie genre. And went around to all the shows, published it, and then actually got picked up by a publisher, and then re-released it, and then they said they want 2 more, and then it just rolled. but it was to be part of this group and not just to be an observer. I wanted to be involved.
Awesome, super cool. Guys?
Well, I would probably say that I like this community because, well, first of all, just speaking for myself as a fan as well, always growing up, when I was little, I was really into Halloween. I loved Halloween, the holiday. I think that's the only time I really was creative. And so every year I'd like to either make my costume or make decorations, or that's what kind of got me into drawing, illustrating, and sculpting and everything. So, but a lot of people around me weren't into it, so they would look at me with like two heads, saying, "Why are you into that stuff? What's wrong with you? Or are you a devil worshiper?" Or, things like that. And I'm like, "No, I just like creepy things." And they're like, "Why do you like creepy things?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I just do." And I think these guys can agree too. It's just, it's not like we're into bad things and people dying and getting killed. It's not that at all. It's just something's drawn to this darkness, whether it's funny like the Monsters, Ghostbusters, or if it's something scary like a scary movie. There's something about adrenaline, mixed in, and I don't know, it's just something that's odd. But the people that aren't into it, they just don't understand. I think it's becoming more mainstream now with Walking Dead and things on TV, where people are more kind of risking the fear to kind of watch something, and so they're kind of getting a little bit, but I know the people that are into it, they just understand and everything. And it's not like we have a bunch of creepy, scary, dangerous people out there.
Right.
It's like I saw a Leatherface in the hallway, and he bumped into me. And he turned around and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "Oh, that's okay."
Don't butcher me alive, Leatherface.
Yeah, exactly. So
Leatherface with manners.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's just a good creative outlet for everybody that's into that dark to kind of get together and kind of embrace it,
Totally. Riffing on what you were saying too.
I think you picked a good word, outlet. When you're watching a horror movie, you get that adrenaline rush, and you can be absolutely terrified, but subconsciously you know you're safe.
Right.
You know nothing's going to happen to you. You're sitting in a movie theater, you're sitting at home, but you can kind of let go and just be terrified for a little bit and feel that rush.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely. Joel? Oh, sorry. Ralph?
Well, I've been doing these shows for 10 years, and I've always been into, I was always into horror, and it is being a little bit of an outsider and stuff like that. And I think this brings everybody together, that like-minded, and everybody kind of comes from a certain place in horror, but when they get together, they notice, they might not know. They can be more introduced into something else too. So it's a continuation, I think, and as far as togetherness, feeling like you belong, and that's great. I want to do these, as long as I can. I always meet the greatest people, and I built relationships with people over the 10 years, and I'm just very happy to be part of it.
All right.
Awesome, cool. And Alan, I'm sorry, I just cut you off.
It's okay. I was going to say, it seems like it's universal. Something that everybody shares is the fear of something. So, like you said, it's a way for us to feel that fear. And when you're in the movie theater and you feel that with everybody else, it's a communal experience.
Oh, definitely.
So I think that's the type of rush or that type of feeling that comes through the comics.
Yeah.
With me, it's kind of two things that have drawn me to doing Vampires in New Jersey, the comic, script or film or whatever it's going to end up being. When I was in the 80s or in the late 70s, when I was a kid, horror movies were your go-to thing.
Oh, yeah.
You knew there was going to be like a cool horror movie coming out for the summer. I remember seeing Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, and taking a girl to see that, and with the eyeball part where the eyeball comes out into the front row. I mean, you knew it was going to be a good time.
Oh, yeah.
So in that respect, I'm kind of steeped in that experience with horror. And then in the 80s, I had a roommate, and this is the other thing you were talking about, how people look and how people perceive people. I had a roommate that was into alternative music before it was popular, like it was in the 90s. So he would play Blasphemous Rumors by Depeche Mode, or he would play Bauhaus, Bela Lugosi's Dead, or you know what I mean? So I'm listening to that, I'm like, this is pretty cool stuff. I'm watching the videos, which are popular, The Cure and things like that. And people look dark. They looked gothic and dark.
Yeah.
But I was enjoying the music. So then, of course, all of that broke in the 90s. Depeche Mode became huge and all these other bands. And I started hanging out at this club in Cherry Hill called Sanctuary, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And it was an alternative club that played mostly that music. So, you know, people would show up and they would look, you know, scary. But then, like you said, you sit down and talk to them. And then I would meet like a girl one night and she'd say, "Oh, I'm a witch." And I would laugh about it. I said, "Well, tell me about it over a drink." And she would tell me all the things that made her believe she was a witch, or I'd meet somebody who said they were a vampire, you know, yada, yada, yada. So in that respect, what I've come to find out as I've gotten older is never judge a book by its cover. A lot of the people that I'm seeing in media and in different walks of life now who look the most normal are the most bizarre. Some of them are the ones you need to be scared of.
Oh, for
Whereas
sure,
the tattooed people are the people that you look at and you think, oh, you guys, they're my friends. They're pretty easygoing. They're not, you know.
Yeah, I find a sweater vest and a business suit much more alarming
That's
than
what I mean.
anything I see at a horror
So
con, for sure.
it's kind of turned backwards for me. You know.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's a thing that I think people are more and more comfortable with now. They're comfortable expressing themselves in a horrific way.
Totally. I love that you mentioned Friday the 13th Part 3 and 3D too. I just watched that recently. I still feel like that's actually the best ending of any Friday the 13th. It's such a creepy, weird ending and it just leaves you feeling so uneasy. And I don't know why I find that to be so satisfying. But before we open it up to the audience for questions, other than meeting the fans and, you know, seeing convention friends and stuff, I was curious about who each of you are most excited to see here at New Jersey Horror Con.
You.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I actually was excited to see Dee Snider. I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, and Lita Ford.
Yeah.
Lita Ford, I want to see her because, you know, she and I were dating in the 80s. She doesn't know. She has no idea, but trust me, in my mind, we were.
I'm going to tell her to at least kiss you once, if not kiss you deadly, so.
What about you guys, anyone?
I'm gonna say Elvira,
Elvira.
Right.
and I've seen her a lot of times, but I want to see her more. So.
I hear you. Definitely so psyched for Elvira. Yeah, Mistress of the Dark was a VHS relic in my family, for sure.
I was going to say, and I don't know if I got this right, because when I'm getting ready for these things, I don't have time to look at everything. Is William Catt here?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so that's like the greatest American hero.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. My wife actually and my son know I like the show. They went out and bought me the first season. So that's kind of the other thing. I do comics in general, and usually I'm going to do a superhero comic, but the vampire comic just came out of a want to do a vampire type of thing. I've done a good series of movies, and the one thing, my wife is scared of horror movies, so I've never been able to actually do one. So I think this was a script that I developed into a comic. So I think this is my love of that genre coming out in a way.
And I think it is spreading to a new audience. Like the Get Out was one of the first ones to actually. I think was it up for Academy Award?
Yeah,
right?
well, he won best screenplay.
Yeah,
Jordan
I
Peele won.
believe that's the first horror ever to win an Academy Award.
Well, unless you count Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah.
Silence of the Lambs was like that gold standard, won like every category, like director, picture, everything.
Yeah.
But other than that, it would, and that's kind of more of a suspense and thriller. I mean, it's not like true horror.
Right.
I would have thought of
But,
that more like a criminal procedural kind of thing. I didn't think of it as
Yeah.
horror because it's not.
I guess to like 1990 people, it was pretty,
You have to look at the
horrifying.
time period.
Yeah, exactly. For nowadays, it's like an episode of CSI or something.
Yeah.
In fact, the stuff on CSI is infinitely more disturbing
Yeah.
now than what's in Silence of the Lambs. But that actually brings up a good point, and it's something that I've seen a lot of people get really passionate debating about, is that what makes a film a horror film? Because, is it like the impending sense of dread? Does it have to be spooky? Does it have to be supernatural? Does it have to be, because there's a lot of real life things that have been turned into movies that are absolutely horrifying.
Right.
But I was curious what you guys set as like the barometer for what makes true horror, or if you've ever given it much thought.
I've not given it much thought, but but it's a good debate. I never even thought of it before. But like you said, I would have not pegged Silence of the Lambs as a horror movie. But for me, traditional horror is marketed as horror.
Right.
With either it's got to have some sort of horrific character or monster. Again, you can even break that down. Apocalyptic, that's probably not horror too. Like 2012 or what was that? The other apocalyptic movies. They're not really horror movies. They're
2012 is like torture porn. Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah,
It was like
yeah.
Dean Devlin, Roland Emmerich thing.
Yeah.
Those guys love watching monuments like explode. And
Yeah, blowing everything up.
they love that stuff. Anybody else want to touch on it?
I was going to say, shocking in a frightening way, and also leaves you with a sense of unease, and possibly disturbing images that you can't shake out of your mind.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge part
Stick
of
with
it.
it, because there's certain things in film, like Linda Blair's here.
Yeah.
and
Oh my God.
As soon as I said her name, you guys all just pictured part of The Exorcist.
Like, absolutely.
Whatever part freaked you out the most.
Oh my God.
So I think to me, that's part of it. It doesn't have to be over the top, but leaves you with that sense of, unease.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Like you go home, close your eyes, and
Yeah.
you could still see those images for sure.
American Werewolf in London, the howl that you hear in the beginning when they're walking, that how
Yes.
they created that, amazing. That
Amazing.
once that you don't see anything, and that 30 years ago, and it's still in my head.
That movie scared me so much when I first watched it. I couldn't even get past the transformation. I got up to the transformation scene because, like, the mauling scene at the beginning where Griffin Dunn gets killed.
Right.
It was like terrifying enough, but I was like, I'm gonna tough through this because my older brother's here. I don't want to look like a dork. And then the transformation scene, I was just like, oh man, I'm out. Yeah, that was it. So, but for years, my relatives, like my aunts and uncles, were like, no, it's a comedy. Like you should watch the rest of it. It
Yeah.
actually gets kind of funny. I'm like, there's nothing funny about that. Like, it's horrible. But now I love it. I watched it recently, and I thought the same thing. I was like, the mauling scene is so intense, and like
That's another thing, though, trying to mix comedy with that type of horror. It's rare you can get that mix right
Oh man, John.
without it going too far one way or the other.
Yeah,
So I give it to who was the director for that?
John Landis.
Yeah, I give it to Landis.
amazing.
It's very hard to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has ever done it as successfully. It's hard to do.
Yeah, very hard to do. Guess anyone else want to touch on that, or did everyone? I'm losing track of everyone waiting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I think a horror movie is probably by definition like if they can capture the horror that the person's going through, usually the protagonist. A lot of it has to do with isolation, I think, too. They're isolated from somebody that can help them, or they're trying to get to somebody that can help them, and they're kind of fighting the darkness on their own. And it's usually like, I think it's not really politically motivated, but it's usually the horror is just comes from evil or darkness.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, I never thought of it like that. Very cool.
Joel.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of things derived from Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman. I think that's kind of, and I think it's kind of went out into a fun, out like that. And there's a lot of different kinds of horror. I think you have to have at least the devil or some sort of body count or something like that. But it's amazing to me how much horror has an influence on people. They really don't know. You know what I mean? A lot, like, you're talking like Silence of the Lambs. You don't feel that, but somebody else does. But somebody might else, think Silence of the Lambs. I mean, you may not as well, But in a sense, it is that dread. It's those jump scares. There's just so many different kinds of horror. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a definitive answer.
I was just thinking when you brought it up, I was thinking about, we were talking about Jordan Peele's movie and being a groundbreaker. I was thinking back to the Blair Witch Project, and was that the first
Found footage
video?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Talk
what about
that being
Cannibal Holocaust? Maybe Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, was that found footage?
Yeah, that's found footage as well. That was 81.
Oh
okay.
wow. Well, it's like
But
there's
that's an
always something.
Italian, it's
There's always something
Italian.
earlier. There's probably even something before
An
Cannibal
American? I don't know.
Holocaust. Yeah, well, probably not American, but yeah.
But that changed, and look how much after that came out, the found footage type videos,
Oh, yeah.
Cloverfield and everything that came out after it.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, what's going to be the next groundbreaking horror that everybody else will say, now I got to do that.
And exorcism movies too. There's been a ton of those.
Yep.
Right.
A whole bevy of those. I guess for a while it was like cute teenage vampires. Unfortunately, that was.
Well, that's not horror.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely not horror.
Well,
It's horror.
it's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of scary.
Yeah, definitely. I'm afraid I might fall into the gap if I watch one of those movies. But I figured I'd give a chance to anyone from the audience want to ask any questions yet? Looks like we got one out there.
Hey guys, Todd Saruch from horrornerd.net. I'm always curious about the creative process. So, how and when does inspiration strike you guys? Do you sit there like, say, Neil, or do you sit down one day and say, okay, today I'm going to write, or Chris, I'm going to sculpt today? Or do you sit bolt upright in the middle of the night and say, oh my God, I have an idea, I got to write it down, or Joel, I have to start sketching this? Just tell me a little bit about how does inspiration strike you guys?
I think I can touch on that one because that's pretty much the story of my life as far as controlling the creativity. It's actually something I can't control. It's nothing that works on a 9-to-5 basis where I can sit down at my desk and say, oh, I'll get to work right now. It's always inspiration based. It doesn't always hit me when it's convenient, and a lot of times it hits me later on, because if I think about something, or if I have a project to work on, it just chugs in the back of my mind, and I'll think about it, and I'm kind of a procrastinator in a way where, I could have a year to get something done, and until pressure starts in as far as a deadline, that's when the brain starts kicking on, and it's something that I can't control, because I would love to do it paced out so I wouldn't kill myself with some of these projects, but I think artists need that sense of pressure where there's something, you have no choice. You're in the middle of fighting this project that you need to get done, and you're losing at the moment with your ideas or how things are getting done. And I think it's the pressure from going, oh God, I gotta get this done, holy crap. And I think the combination of the inspiration, creativity, and that pressure together produce ideas that come out of me that I would not have thought the whole year long. And basically, I think it is because you don't have a choice at this point. You don't sit there and say, oh, I'll make it green, or I'll make it purple and brown. It's a matter of, holy crap, I gotta get this done and make sure it doesn't look bad. You know what I mean? So it's basically, the pressure, it kills me sometimes, because I've been through hell. I'm actually dealing with a kidney stone right now. But I was supposed to
horror. Let's make a horror movie about that.
Right?
Oh, I tell you,
That sounds
I tell you,
horrible.
it's my nemesis.
Terror beyond
I've had them
belief.
since I was 8, and I was supposed to have surgery yesterday, but I told them I went in on Sunday and I couldn't take it anymore, so I said, the doctor's like, we just did a CAT scan, you have a giant kidney stone and you need to get in right away. And I said, well, this week's not good for me. And the doctor looks at me and says, what did you just say? And I said, you don't understand that this is a very important week for me, this weekend coming up, and I really can't miss it. And he's like, well, all right, well, you better get to the doctor when you get home, and if you get a fever, run to the hospital. So right now I'm dealing with that, but that's a type of pressure that hit me 3 days before the show, and it was something that I'm like, does this really have to happen now? But I still had to get stuff done, and for some reason that was the pressure, part of the pressure that kind of helped me get some of these things finished today. So
It's not going to be like Alien, like bursting out.
you know what?
Burning
It
out.
feels like it is. It really does.
Change my special to the soup.
That's the big finale.
Exactly. It's horrible. I had my first, like I said, when I was 8, and I just remember that horrible pain, and it comes back, and I just start sweating when I feel it, because I'm like, here it
Well,
comes.
thanks for hanging in there.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad I did, honestly.
Manly than I am. I'd be screaming like a little girl.
Oh my God, I'd be out of commish for sure.
That's how guys are. We wince thinking about
I'm
pain.
thinking about taking off tomorrow,
We're not
just
like
thinking
women-
about
women
your
do that.
kidney stone. It's like really over.
I can't even think about the pain. I'm wincing.
You got a contact
Good job.
kidney stone over there.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of the same. There's no, if you sat down and tried to do it, it's pointless. Looking at a blank piece of paper is pointless, or a blank screen. No one looks at paper anymore. It just comes to me, and it's always the same thing. Sitting up, bolt right, at night as you're falling asleep, yes. Because why? You're finally letting your mind go. You're relaxed, and you're, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep. And suddenly all the stuff that you suppress all day because you're thinking of all the important things, like, oh, I gotta respond to 500 goddamn emails. Oh, I've gotta do this, I've gotta do that, I've gotta do this, I gotta pick up the kids, I gotta drop the kids off, I gotta do this. Suddenly it's all gone. And it can just come into your mind. The other time is driving. I think also driving is another time where you just turn off your brain especially if you know where you're going and you just drive, you don't even remember. I remember I left my house and now I'm at work. I have no idea what happened in between here, but there's blood all over my car. No, but you just turn your mind off and then it comes. And I don't know if you guys do this. I send myself email after email after email because I think of things and then I email it to myself and then I'm trying to remember it.
That's a good idea.
Because you don't always have to write it down. And then night, do you guys write? Like for me, you know, I got a wife, I got kids, and at 11 o'clock at night, finally the kids are in bed, the wife is in bed, the work is done, and now you can write. And that's usually when it's all, the creative stuff is done, and now you have to assemble it into the final product. And then that's the crunch time, and you're like, holy shit, now I gotta put this all together. And from 11 at night till 2 in the morning, golden hours, man, just key writing time.
Yeah, I agree with you.
With me, it's a little different. As far as writing, I was a film guy in 2004. I started a company, production company, and originally I wanted to just be the producer of films. I didn't want to do the other things. But when you're in independent film, you end up doing everything. So I learned to write on spec because we kept doing 48-hour film festivals in New York and Philadelphia, and that's where you meet on Friday. Like today, we pick a genre out of a hat. They give you a name, they want to appear in the film, they give you a line, and you get a genre. And I would get, you know, Western musical. So I have to write it, short film, write it, get the actors, edit it, score it, and deliver it by Sunday, and then play in the film festival.
Wow.
So that was a good exercise for me and my company. We got to the point where we could do that, and it was good, you know, to be able to write on spec, because I had people who had won awards that I would go to and say, could you help me with the script? And they just weren't inspired. So I didn't get anything out of it. So eventually I got to the point where I was writing more and more and more, and that's how things started coming out. Now right now I'm actually just finished my dissertation for my PhD, and that helped me in management of information systems, and that helped me, it beat me up a lot, because you write 100 pages for your committee, you give it to them, and they of course tell you it's crap, they send it back, and you write some more. So through that was very regimented. So then when I did get free time, like you said, in the middle of the night, I would say, you know what, I like writing, but I hate writing this. I want to write something for myself. And that's why I wrote these other things, Vampires in New Jersey, and these other things that I work on, where I could have the freedom to write what I wanted to write. So inspiration for me, and I also write music. So sometimes I'll hear, like recently, we had a friend over, my wife was talking to her, and I heard a bass line. And I love this bass line. It was like a 9 Inch Nails bass line. But I'm like, did 9 Inch Nails write that? Am I hearing that? What is that in my ears? So I literally said, I gotta take a break. I went in the other room and I recorded the bass line, and off of that I wrote some songs. So sometimes it'll be, I'm inspired by something, I hear something, some idea comes to me, and I end up writing it. But either way, to try and capture it, like you said, I'll email it to myself if I come up with an idea to write or whatever. And then once you get into it, what I found is you have to kind of push yourself to finish. At some point, you got to say, well, I've written this great half of a story, but who the hell's going to want to read half of a story? It's got to have a good conclusion. It's got to have some action. It's got to have whatever. So there comes a point where you do have to push yourself in a way to try and set your own deadline so you have something. And then you could always punch it up, you know, as you go along, or, you know, send it to a good friend like you, and you go, "Ow, this part sucks. Throw that out."
And that is the hardest part, getting someone to give you real feedback, because either A, they're going to tell you it sucks,
Right.
because they don't want to be bothered, or B, they truly are your friend and they're going to tell you it sucks.
Right.
So getting someone to really give you honest feedback.
That's the other thing. And my wife will usually tell me what sucks, and I throw that in. So she's good for me.
So roommates always tell me I suck, so that always
Well,
works for me.
that's what roommates are for.
Exactly, that's what drives me.
I think there was one other question.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think you got to be inspired. I do a lot of covers for Scream Factory, movies that have very, very, very famous covers, and then I have to create something as what I think, you know, that's a certain amount of pressure, but the inspiration and really drives you. And with my work, it's 2 weeks for a rough and 2 weeks for the final. And then there's usually stuff in between that has to go through a few different people, and if there's lightnesses and different things like that. But I find I work best in the morning, and I just keep going. And sometimes it's hard to stop once you get going, and once you get on something, you know, it's hard to stop. So yeah, you just got to keep on going.
Flowing, you want to catch that flowing right.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you don't know if it'll come back. You
It's
know,
like-
because it'll come back in a different way, and you'll lose that magic.
It's like, oh, I forgot to eat. I forgot to go to the bathroom. Oh man, do I have to go to sleep?
Yeah, it's like a time machine.
Oh man, I forgot I was supposed to get kidney stone surgery today. Damn it!
Thank you.
Classic. Hey, there's one more question out there.
Okay. Hi. Hey.
Hello.
I'm gonna be dead honest. I'm not a horror fan at all. I'm here for my fiance. So, in the first con that we went to, I was terrified, but I'm going to appreciate a lot of the art around it because I'm technically new.
Right.
So I'm wondering what aspects of your art and what do you think pulls in people or could pull in people that aren't horror fans? Because being as that's who I am, like I do love walking around because I can appreciate all of it and what's amazing. It can't hide in my hallway because I'll scream every time I go inside. But like, what do you think about your art pulls people in or pulls people in that aren't necessarily horror fans?
All right, I guess I'll hit that one.
Okay.
Basically, with the art, I focus on a few different things. The one thing would be what kind of elements are going. I guess I'm my own critic and my own fan in a way where I'm kind of doing it to impress myself. And if I feel like something hit me a certain way, then hopefully it would hit the average person that's not really into horror like a certain way, because everybody has the same emotions and same feelings, you know? I mean, everybody gets happy about things or scared or frustrated or, you know? And I think what it is with horror, it's tapping into those, I wouldn't say, well, not negative so much, but the defense mechanisms of our emotions, you know? And what I'm basically doing is trying to hit things that are not grotesque to look at. Like my personal art, I don't really paint blood and guts and things like that. Once in a while I'll get a little gory with blood, but I don't really tend to do with body parts and things like that. Mine's more of a, my mindset comes from more of a 60s, 70s type Addams Family, where Addams Family really creeped me out in a lot of ways because they had these little elements with the hand and Thing, you never saw things. I mean, Cousin It, you couldn't see his face. Things like that really bother me because they're creating elements of imagination. They're leaving things out. When a movie or a film shows too many things, too graphic, sometimes it doesn't really leave a lasting impression. It leaves a disturbing impression, but it doesn't leave a lasting impression where the brain's still thinking about it later on, going, ooh, that was kind of weird. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Wizard of Oz when I was a kid, one thing that really bothered me, to this day it still does, is when the house lands on the witch and the ruby slippers come off the witch and her legs curl up under the house. Like, I was so scared of that image for so long. And that's basically the type of things that I like to add into my work. Whether it's, if it's just a gravestone I'm making, gravestone's basically a piece of granite or a piece of slate or something like that, and it really doesn't do anything, it just sits there. But what could I add to this thing that actually gives people something to think about? And one of the things that I did I created this gravestone that I had to send overseas, and it was a prototype, and I couldn't figure out, I thought I did everything perfectly the way I thought, but there was something bothering me about it, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I thought about it, and it came to me. The gravestone that I created is from it's an old style granite, or probably like early 1800s. And what I realized was, from visiting so many cemeteries and looking at gravestones, that anything that's 100 years old or more isn't sitting straight up anymore. They actually sink into the ground slightly. So I'm like, the gravestone's standing straight up. I need to make it tilt a little bit. And I thought about it. I'm like, well, this is kind of a dangerous idea at this point, because if I screw this thing up, it's leaving tomorrow. And you know, but it really bothered me that I didn't add that, you know. So I finally said, the hell with it, you gotta try it. And then I just cut it, and luckily I did it right. And I was like, thank God. So then it tilted a little bit. You know, it didn't tilt backwards, but it tilted backwards and then to the side a little bit. So when I brought this thing into a show, I had Don Post Jr., he's the guy that runs Don Post Studios. They're known for all the masks, the rubber masks. He came up and he's like, oh, I love your gravestone. I said, oh, thank you very much. And he's like, I love how it's tilted. And I'm like, oh, all right, you know, it works. So those little elements I like to add in there to see if people will notice. And if they notice, then I think I hit the right mark. So those are the type of things that I try to add for anybody to like say, ooh, that's weird. And it's not so grotesque that they don't want to look at it. It's something that's just odd that they go, that's weird, you know? So I hope that answered your question for you. Anybody else?
Oh, well, it's great that you support him. But, you know, opposites attract. You don't really have to be fully into it, but it's great that you know, appreciate that he's into it, and I hope he returns the favor and will go and do things that he may be like, oh,
He's
God.
seen all of Gilmore Girls.
There you go. See, there's a relationship.
Good man.
But
That's a lot of Gilmore Girls.
you know, there's other parts of horror that are not really as horrific. I think like Gothic. There's a lot, as you were talking about, really beautiful Gothic artwork, which has that sense of foreboding, that you can kind of look at it and say there's maybe something, but still can be beautiful, and some people can look at it and say, oh, that's a beautiful scene of an area at night, and other people say, well, it's a very creepy, though I would say the same thing, the artwork. Other than that, you know, a lot of the stuff here is probably going to be pretty hardcore horror.
I try to have bright colors with a different subject matter, and I've attracted a lot of people with the color, and then they want to know who the character is in it, and that draws people. So I don't know. It's not necessarily the subject matter. I mean, the subject matter I think determines a lot of people if they're going to hang it in their living room or not. And I sell a lot of artwork to people, you know, that have just a place for that, you know what I mean, in their office or whatever. So I think there's a place for everything, and I think, you know, over time things aren't as scary as they are, you know. It's like,
You just showed me the artwork you did at the phone cover.
Yes.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Gene Wilder
Yeah.
is Willy Wonka. I just read something. I've seen the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka 1,000 times. Love it. Favorite episode. Do you know what it's based on? It's based on Dante's Inferno. That as they're going through each room, that's a level of hell, and that each kid is falling victim to their sin, to their desires and sins. But I never even realized that, but the whole movie was done at they're actually going through the 7 levels of hell.
Yeah, like gluttony with the kid that ate all the candy,
Yeah.
and greed with the little girl that wanted everything. And
I read that and I was like, oh, that's bullshit. And then I started reading through it, and it was a YouTube thing, they were showing the different scenes. God damn, it is. He did it. And so here's horror hidden as one of the greatest classics of children's movies.
Yeah, we're in kids' clothes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, with me, I'm not specifically the illustrator of my comic book, but what people seem to like, what they tell me they like about the comic, is that it fits my writing. Like, the two work really well. My writing, because I write like a film, so I try and write the first couple issues are more subtle, like you would in a movie, because you don't want to reveal everything right up front. So the vampires in my story, they're like the person sitting next to me. And I mean, they're not overtly vampires, necessarily. Now, as you get through the story, you run into more elaborate vampires, the people that, you know, sleep all day, hang out all night, but they're like well-dressed college students. I mean, you really wouldn't think about them as vampires, although they have vampire activity. But as far as the art, and I've had a couple artists interpret what I've written. The first one who took an interest was a guy who drew Silver Surfer for Marvel, Mahathir Bhuang. He saw my ad on Upwork, not to plug them, but he saw it on there and he liked the idea of vampires versus the mob. He just liked that catch line. And when you do films, and I've been out to Hollywood to pitch things, you want something easy that people can grab onto. And just that explanation, True Blood, like True Blood versus The Sopranos, clicked in his head. And then he got excited about it. So what I find is artists that are actually excited about my material will do a much better job illustrating what I've come up with because they're just into it. And that's on all levels. I mean, if you're, as a musician, if you're in a band and the people in the band aren't that excited about your music, then your show's probably not going to be very good. But the people I've been able to work with that were excited, one, you get excellent work out of those people because they're excited, just like if you're into something. And two, the quality of what comes out seems to be really much better. So.
Anybody else have any questions out there, guys? No, no one.
I think back to my earliest experiences with horror, and art was such a big part of that. When I was a kid, 4 or 5 years old, I got a Blockbuster with my family. And I'd split off from them and kind of sneak into the horror aisle. And I loved looking at the covers of those movies, which often made them look a lot scarier than they were actually making. But like something really drew me in about that, and it really just sparked my imagination. And I think the covers for older movies were so much more interesting. And then once you hit, I think like the 90s or so, it was either photography or this kind of like a collage of people's faces. And it seems like that fell off. And I'm wondering what you guys think. Like I think a lot of the Blu-ray releases now, some of the studios are starting to do painted art again. And I think that's really cool. But what do you think it'll take to bring, I guess that component back to the genre? Because for me, that was so important in drawing me in and making me want to see those movies.
Yeah, I agree. I did the same thing. I used to ride my moped to, video stores, and I'd look at that, and they would draw you in. And you go home, and you'd be like, "There's not even an alligator in this movie," but it's a 3D thing. But I'm very fortunate to be able to at least try to continue that. But for for big Hollywood and stuff, it seems like a lot of that stuff is their last thought sometimes. Even with all the marketing tools you have out there, they don't do it. And I think they have an art department in their place, and they need something, and they need it by Tuesday, and there you go. But now there are companies out there, like the one I work for, Scream Factory. They are, they're not only going in and making the movie better, and adding more content and stuff, but they are hiring people to do a new look, and there are new people seeing that, just like yourself now. There's a kid seeing that and getting excited about it as well. And it is sad that it doesn't happen as much as you'd like, but I think it makes the other stuff more special, because it's not anymore.
Because it's disposable. The old ones, the movie posters should be hanging in galleries. Now they just come and they go, and the movie comes out and it's gone in a blink of an eye, and no one cares.
Well, I think a lot of it too is when it's painted, it's done by an artist, and then I think the newer stuff is just graphic designers kind of juxtapose things, and make it look slick, But I agree with you because I used to go to Blockbuster, the same exact thing. I just loved looking at the covers, and I used to say, I'm like, why can't I see that movie? Like, how come that's not the movie that's in there?
Because your mind fills in all that stuff.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh, I cannot wait to get this thing home.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So it's a lot of, you're right, it's a lot of marketing, making people want to see it,
I think it's a lost art in a lot of ways, because if you have a lot of resources, like you're a bigger production company or a major film company, you're thinking of 1,000 different other ways to market. Whereas, in the 30s or 40s, all they had was, they didn't have TV, they didn't really run radio ads, you had to make the posters sell the movie. So it is an art, and it's just like albums when I was younger. I mean, I like album art. I like the liner notes. I like, but we don't have that anymore because it's, just a thing floating on the internet. So, but yeah, I think being able to communicate or at least attract your attention with some really cool art, that's important. And I think you'll see that more with an independent film today than you will with a major because we have less resources.
I think a lot of it is, hey, this actor's in this movie, this actress is in this movie. Yeah, so that's their main thing right there because they got to pay it up.
You saw someone did a video where they broke down like every Bruce Willis movie poster for the last 10 years, and he's doing the same like angle of his head on every poster.
That's his good side.
Yeah, right. It's the good side, of course. But yeah, the Bruce Willis head turn. Because that's such a great question, I actually want to piggyback on that if I could and ask you guys what horror box art and VHS artwork kind of stood out to you most? Like when you're that, young kid in Blockbuster or wherever looking at those movies on the shelf, what do you remember catching your eye when you were a kid? Or if anything?
Well, I can still, now that you said it, I can still see Brandon Lee on that poster for The Crow.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like just walking with his arms outstretched. I mean, that's classic to me. So
very iconic poster, yeah.
I would say, I don't know if it's horror, I think it's horror, but Clockwork Orange, that cover, and then Pink Floyd The Wall, it's not horror, but that cover.
But yeah, artwork in general, it's so cool. Guys, next joke.
I think Poltergeist is a nice image.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not as, but it is. It is very, you're wondering what's going on. An older one, Maniac, I don't know if you know that, where it just shows the guides at the bottom,
Oh, yeah.
and you try to wonder what's going on. But those you see that thing and you try to fill in the gaps before you can watch it. And then, sometimes
it's your curiosity.
Exactly.
Now the problem is they tell you everything in the trailer to begin with, and the trailer's on your phone and you already saw it, like 6 months before the movie comes out, and you're like, is there any more in this movie? Because that's the thing I see on Facebook a lot and a lot of the blogs. People just go, well, they just showed me everything in the movie. And I'm like, a good filmmaker leaves something in.
Yeah.
But a lot of filmmakers do put as much as they can in there to get you to at least come into the movie.
Yeah.
So then you walk out sometimes, you're like, man, I didn't see anything with it. Or they included a scene in the trailer that you didn't see in the movie.
Yeah,
that'll happen a lot, but that's a reshoot problem.
A lot. I find that
freaks me out.
friggin' annoying.
Yeah,
when
super
you see
annoying.
a scene,
Really like that
all the
scene.
commercials or all the trailers, and it's not in a goddamn movie.
No, that should be fucking outlawed. It should absolutely be illegal.
But I understand, did they
her.
re-edit the fucking movie between the commercial
Yes.
and out? Really?
Justice
And-
League was a perfect example of that.
Test mark.
They had, they did test screenings and stuff, which they do less of now, obviously, but for a movie that big, they still have to. And there was like so many things, like seeing Cyborg before he was Cyborg, like you don't even see that in the movie. But there was blatant shots, like slow, like 300 frame per second shots of him walking in his like Letterman jacket and stuff like that. And then also a lot of times, touching on what you were saying about what goes in the trailer and what doesn't, a lot of times now, unfortunately, the studio will put things in the trailer the director does not approve and does not want in the trailer. Like, an example, it's not horror, but the most recent Terminator movie, it's Terminator Genesis or whatever, it was, whatever your thoughts are about the movie, but there's, spoiler alert, for anyone who hasn't seen that new Terminator, cover your ears, but, John Connor is like a Terminator in that somehow. It's a weird twist that they threw on it. And, I read an interview with the director talking about that was not supposed to be in the trailers, and that was in every single trailer. Yeah, why would you give that away? That's like, the only twist we can expect in it, and I'll never know how that would have hit me if I didn't see it in a trailer and think, that's ridiculous. In a trailer, it becomes, you don't have the time to be as gracious with it, as graceful, But we're almost running out of time here, guys, so I do want to ask each of you briefly, I'm sorry, no, what were you saying?
I was just going to throw in real quick. When you have something like years ago with a guy like John Carpenter, they gave a small budget, but they gave him the ability to do the theme song and really tailored the movie, and it had a major impact. And I think what Hollywood did was, as you saw, they got rid of him. They made a bunch of different Halloween movies, but now they brought him back because there's a certain quality to that, to him making that poster or whoever drew that cover that you liked.
And the music.
And another sound is the breathing in that
Right.
movie was amazing.
But you can only do that as an independent, giving somebody the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And Hollywood has to let go a little bit. I think they're getting back to that with the new Halloween. He seems involved. And I know they're going to remake some of his other stuff, and people were saying, "Oh, we're afraid they're going to remake it." I said, as long as he's involved, since he came up with the original thing, it'll have something to it.
Totally.
There's a certain quality. You can see the difference in quality in some of these movies because that original person was involved.
And Carpenter's done a few remakes himself. Village of the Dam was a remake. The Thing was one of maybe the greatest remake of all time. You know what I mean?
I still freak out.
Precinct 13.
Assault on Precinct 13. That was remade. Yeah, a lot of his movies. Yeah.
No, but he, it was an old, is it a Western?
Oh, really?
It was something that he based on an old movie, yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a bunch of guys were locked in a sheriff's
I find that
I think, or something like that, and he kind of turned it
looking
into
at
it. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I find that stuff so fascinating. It's like when you hear The Dark Knight was based around the movie Heat, and it's like, oh man, I totally see that. It's, you know, structure-wise, they almost follow the same kind of beat for beat. But so we're almost out of time, guys, so I do want to give you guys a chance to plug yourself, upcoming projects and things. Where can fans catch you guys next? Any upcoming cons or projects coming out?
Well, this is my weekends, my major weekend, so I'm actually making the Film Festival Awards, so I've been spending the last few months getting ready for those. And then I actually am, I've made 5 celebrity awards that I'm giving out over the weekend, most likely tomorrow, but I actually get to present them, so it's actually a big deal for me. So this is my Christmas. If I was Santa Claus, then this would be Christmas for me. So after this con, I get to relax for a while and kind of regroup and everything, so, and go to the doctor, so.
Well, Vampires of New Jersey, 3rd issue should be out in the next, hopefully before Halloween.
Awesome.
And I did speak with, one of the cons I got to pitch Columbia Pictures. Because it's a script that I got a, artist to block it out really. It just worked out to be a comic.
Wow.
So if that doesn't go through, I'll probably do a Kickstarter or something like that to film some part of it myself.
Oh, wow.
Because it's people who are reading the comics say it's like a good TV show. So they seem to be enjoying it. And I have another comic that's coming out. It's about it's superhero-ish, but it's more like grounded superhero. It's like Unbreakable meets X-Files.
Awesome.
It's called Blackjack.
Called Blackjack?
Yeah, it'll be out. Artist should be done. It'll be out June.
Awesome. So definitely be keeping an eye out for that, everybody.
And it'll be on Comixology, just like Vampires.
Awesome.
And so, my first book, Exit Zero, came out in 2016. The sequel to that, Nuke Jersey, came out in 2017, and this is my first con with the end of the trilogy, Zombie Democracy, and that came out in June 2018. So this is my first con where I have all 3 books, the trilogy from beginning to end. So I'm doing this. I'll be doing a bunch of stuff around Halloween. I'm doing Barnes & Noble book signing at Cherry Hill, Homedale, and Eatontown. One weekend doing 3 Barnes & Noble, and then I'll be at Walker Stalker Con in Jersey, and then a couple other smaller horror cons. And then it's next year, I've been working a book for about over a year now, and it's kind of trying to figure out if I can finish it or not, and if that works out, I hope to be back here next year with that book.
That sounds awesome.
I just finished up my 10th cover this year for Scream Factory. There's 2 more that they haven't shown the art for, so I turned in everything for them. I've got a bunch of shows. I got Rock and Shock in Massachusetts, and then Full Moon in Nashville, and then Walker Stalker in Atlanta, and then Days of the Dead in Chicago. And that'll get me to November, and then I'm taking a little break after that for about a month.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I know fans are definitely looking forward to seeing you guys there. So we're just about out of time then, so we're going to have to wrap it up. But guys, give a round of applause for these amazing artists and spending their time with us.
Thank you very much.